So do you guys remember that FF7 Remake demo that was so heavily leaked back in January that it was questioned if it would ever be released to the public? Well, last night Square Enix gave us a little present. Turns out that the demo is now available on the PlayStation Network store for the public. And me being the Square Enix fanboy that I am, I had to download this thing at midnight and play through it at least a couple times to really get a grasp of what Square Enix is hoping to do with Final Fantasy. They're in this spot right now where they're really trying to blend RPG and real-time elements to work cohesively together. I think Final Fantasy 15 was their testing ground for like the first kind of iteration of what that might look like. But here we have, Final Fantasy VII before us now, and supposedly the next 3 games within the Final Fantasy VII Remake are all going to operate around this kind of system. Chances are that this formula is going to expand well past the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy. So I just wanted to lay out my experience with the gameplay and the game system here, and how I feel about Square Enix moving forward with this kind of system in its future releases. So first and foremost, this game is going to allow you to play in 2 different ways. You can either play with the actual RPG and real-time action combat, or you can leave out the real-time action combat altogether and play in classic mode, where you're only using a command menu available to you to kind of direct what special attacks your player-controlled character is going to do. All other basic actions, such as attacking and defending, will be something that the AI will handle for you. I think for the sake of authenticity, I actually applaud Square Enix for leaving a mode like this in to kind of hone back to the original source material, but I also think it's pretty telling that most of the strategy in this game is going to come from you not only organizing your command menu and directing your players, but actually being engaged in the action in real time. And you can tell that because they've automatically set classic mode to be on the easiest difficulty. I don't know if that's something that you can actually change, but from what this demo is implying and showing us, it seems like classic mode is easy mode on steroids. Speaking of the action elements in this game, why do I think they're going to encapsulate a large portion of what makes up this game's strategy and difficulty? Well, speaking plainly, I actually got very heavy Dark Souls vibes playing the action portions. And I don't say that for the sake of drawing a comparison to any game that I perceive as difficult as being Dark Souls-y. Rather, it's because all the elements that make up a Soulsborne-like game are actually within these portions. You have standard attacks, strong attacks, evade maneuvers, blocking maneuvers, counter maneuvers. And the timing of any action you take, as well as the prioritization of your targets within the field, really do matter here, like to a surprising amount. Especially on harder difficulties. I was having trouble doing this on normal mode, and I've already played through it like 3 times already. There's still a lot to learn. And that's only if you're managing one character. If you have an entire party to manage, you have to understand all of the little nicks and knacks, kinks and quirks that make up the strengths and weaknesses of every character in every situation. This feels like what Final Fantasy XV's gameplay should have been. For example, Barret has a gun, and his attacks can hit enemies that Cloud is not able to reach, and you rely on him multiple times just throughout this one demo section in the game. Maybe it's also better just to play as Barret because you don't want to be up and close against an enemy that primarily does melee damage. Compare this to Final Fantasy XV, where, regardless of what character you were controlling, it feels like you could have gotten the job done with any other character within your party. Add to that fact that within that game, blocking and dodging were relegated to simply holding down one button, which eliminated any need for skill or timing within evading and blocking. And you can see how Final Fantasy VII's action system is the better system here. Your actions are simply more purposeful. There is more strategy that goes into thinking how you're going to handle every encounter. And I love that about this game. And I haven't even started talking about how the command menus work, which is how you would primarily be interacting with this game if you were going through classic mode. As time passes, or as you land your standard attacks on enemies here, you'll start to fill up what's called an ATB gauge. Filling up an ATB gauge will let you enter into your command menu and decide what special move you want to conduct. Now that can range anywhere from a special ability you have, to a magic cast, to using an item, or a limit break. Potentially even more if they haven't been highlighted within this demo. And here, even more elements of very purposeful strategy are making the combat within this game deeper. The command menu brings this forward in the form of resource management, where you have to decide if your ATB is going to be used offensively or defensively. Using magic not only uses up an ATB gauge, but it also uses up MP. Using an item will use up an entire gauge. There's a lot of factors you need to consider. Opening the command menu will definitely slow down the pace of battle, as they are trying to emulate the classic mode RPG elements here, but there's also the option to shortcut your special abilities and items directly onto certain button combinations, which will keep the speed of the battle fast for players who want more of that action element. The command menu is going to be the RPG element of this game, and it's a pretty damn cool and good one. Between you having to do your normal action attacks to build up the ATB gauge, to you correctly using the right abilities and resources to get through the story with your command menu, it's just so immersive and purposeful. I know I'm gushing those words a lot right now, but purposeful and strategic, that is what this game is. Now, I'm not going to say that this game isn't going to come with its flaws. Within my experience with the demo, I actually noticed a couple. For starters, the lock-on system isn't the most intuitive thing in the world. It could use a little bit of polish. It's nothing that's game-breaking by any means, but just a little bit of extra polish would go a long way. I primarily just had trouble switching between targets that I was locked onto. No big deal right now. The second thing is probably mostly on me anyway, just because I've been playing so much Kingdom Hearts recently, but I instinctively would want to cycle through my command menu using my D-pad, and more often than not, that actually resulted in me accidentally switching between characters, and so I would go through this awkward fumbling of characters just to get to the correct ability that I want. And I feel like I'm not going to be the only person who that affects, but this is probably just going to be something that you're going to have to get used to. It's just the layout of the entire UI. Nothing wrong with it inherently, just be ready to condition yourself to think a little bit differently about how you're playing the game.
Focus, find a way.
Well said, Cloud. Also, the game is just gosh darn beautiful. I don't know how they managed to fit so many particle effects within every single battle sequence. I'll let the gameplay speak for itself here, but the character details are also on point. Just look at some of the cutscenes.
Soldiers may attack on command, but I hear they make good guard dogs too. Bet you've seen a few reactors. So how do we get to the bridge above Mako storage? Ain't holding out on me, are you? Stamp scared to bite the hand that fed him? Or is he a loyal little doggy? Have it your way, Mutt. We can do this with you, or we can do this without you.
Different reactor, different layout. Depends when it was built. Never seen one like this, but I'll manage.
Notice how the cutscene transitioned over to the gameplay sequence pretty seamlessly there. It's surprising how smooth it is. I've never seen anything quite like it in a Final Fantasy game. Even from cutscene straight into battle, it's pretty seamless. And it reminds me a little bit of how Uncharted would handle some of their cutscene to action sequences, so I'm happy to see that Final Fantasy is now embracing that as well. So in case you couldn't tell, I'm very excited about this game. And not just this game, but also the direction that Final Fantasy is going. There's no doubt in my mind that Remake is going to act as a precursor to what we can expect from Square Enix going forward with this franchise. And it's funny now because the more I've watched this and the more I've played through it, the more I'm wondering if sold turn-based RPG games are going to be something that's going to get left behind altogether, because having played this demo, just this demo a couple times, makes me think that there's just so much more strategy and depth involved in including an action element into your RPG game, which is already a strategy-based game, that why would you ever want to go backwards and eliminate the two? Like, this is just such a good combination. So big ups to the whole Square Enix team for putting together what I am guessing is going to be a masterpiece. That's going to depend on how much content is in here. They're pricing this as a full AAA release game, so I'm expecting there to be plenty in here for us to enjoy. And especially on harder difficulties, mastering this game is going to be so satisfying. I do plan on covering this game when it comes out in April, either in the form of like a walkthrough or guides for the super bosses here, so if you like the video, and if you like Final Fantasy VII Remake, maybe consider leaving me a like. Maybe consider subscribing to the channel as well. Every little bit is appreciated tremendously. That's all I've got for now, so once again, thanks so much for watching. I will see you lovelies tomorrow when I upload my Shion data fight guide, so keep an eye out for that if you're subscribed. Otherwise, take care.